This willingness to punish anyone, though, on the Soviet side, for the littlest infractions or for not carrying out orders to the letter, began to inhibit the ability of commanders to make decisions on the ground. Everyone was so frightened of being shot or put in a penal battalion that they followed orders even when the orders made no sense at all. One of my favorite stories highlighting the Soviet chain of command and how scared everyone was of disobeying orders and how it was better to lose lots of men than to disobey orders comes from a commander who was ordered to have his troops cross a river. Listen to this. Quote, "The regimental commander has maps and orders from above, and you have nothing but a rifle and an entrenching tool. Somewhere up above, a general looks at a map, and it seems reasonable to him to change the front line. He sends down an order. At such and such a point, move 5 kilometers forward. As luck would have it, there turns out to be a river just at that point, the White Sturgeon. It's deep and swift in open terrain. It would be convenient and relatively safe to sit in some trenches behind this natural obstacle. But an order is an order, and you can't say, 'It's impossible to cross here,' though from any normal man's point of view it is indeed impossible to cross, because there are no boats, no planks, no trees, and the soldiers all come from the steppes, and not only can't swim, but have never even seen a river. And so it starts. 'Comrade Lieutenant, sir, I can't go into the water. I don't know how to swim.' But you won't be moved to pity. It's better to drown a soldier than to show irresoluteness or insubordination, all the more so since you've already reported to the battalion commander that there are no boats. You pull out your service revolver, cock it, and yell, 'Get into the river at once, you son of a bitch! I'll count to 3, or else you'll never go anywhere.' The soldier goes in the water, the current seizes him, he drowns, as do all the rest that are forced in. Then you report to the battalion commander, 'Comrade Major, there are only 5 men left in my company.' The major, of course, is furious. 'What did you do to them? I didn't hear a single shot.' You reply, 'They all drowned crossing the river, Comrade Major.' 'What do you mean, drowned? I'll shoot you right there like a dog,' the major replies. 'As you will, Comrade Major, but I did report to you that there were no planks or logs to be found in the area, that the river is deep and swift, it can't be forded. You told me to stop arguing and obey orders.' 'You blockhead! What a stupid way to destroy a whole company!' The major also feels at fault and calls the colonel, his regimental commander. 'I gave you 5 hours to cross the river,' the latter shouts without listening to the major. 'Have you carried out the order?' 'No, Comrade Colonel, we've sustained heavy losses,' the major says. 'Losses? Well, that's fine. If there weren't any losses, our heads would roll. What happened? Everything's quiet, not a single shot. Did they all get knifed or what?' 'No, drowned,' the major replies. 'The company that was to cross over were all slant eyes, never saw a river before. Naturally, they drowned since there was nothing to float on.' The colonel is incensed. 'You son of a bitch, why didn't you take some pontoons? We've been dragging a whole transport of pontoons around. I can give you as many as you want.' The major replies, 'I no longer need them, Comrade Colonel. There are 5 cucumbers left in the first company, 10 in the second, maybe 20 in the third. There's no one left to cross.' Cucumbers, by the way, was a slang term for the green-clad Soviet infantrymen. 'You'll have to cross anyway,' the colonel says after some pondering. 'What counts is the fact that the order has been carried out, even if only one man makes it.'" End quote. Now that's ridiculous, but that shows you that the whole chain of command was traumatized by the leadership of the Soviet Union, and everyone was afraid for their own hide, and making statements like, "Well, this can't be done," was not acceptable. There was a story about a whole unit of brand new recruits who didn't even have rifles being sent up against the 16th Panzer Division, which is suicide, and of course getting wiped out. And when the Germans captured the officer who ordered the attack, he said he knew it was suicide, but the commander who told him to do it was dead drunk and insisted that it be carried out. One wonders how many lives were uselessly lost on the Eastern Front because of this command structure that punished any sort of what was perceived as insubordination so ruthlessly that people just carried out orders that were stupid and deadly. And even the Soviet high commanders had every reason to be scared. There were a bunch of them who at the early part of Operation Barbarossa had been languishing in the NKVD secret police prisons. One of the most distinguished generals of the war, Konstantin Rokossovsky, had a whole mouthful, for example, of steel teeth. It was his most distinguishing characteristic. People would write when they first met him of his famous steel smile, they called it. But he wasn't the only one. There were generals like Berestov who had a whole mouthful of gold. And the reason for their metal teeth was because before the war, they and a number of other Soviet generals were victims of Stalin's purges against the military. And the secret police had knocked out all their teeth, broke their ribs, shattered their toes with hammers, pulled out their fingernails, and subjected them all to multiple mock executions. And then to still go and fight on for that regime, to prop it up and keep it going, and not just fight well, but fight loyally, that's kind of hard to understand, isn't it? But it was pretty common on the Soviet side of things. But it did give all these generals a healthy respect for what Stalin could do to them if they got on his bad side again.